Good evening and welcome to the Jinn&Tonic show on Friday, the 30th of March, 2018. Welcome to you, the viewers, and anybody in the chat, and obviously welcome to my amazing, as always, co-host, Stops. How are you doing this week, my good sir?
I thought I had a couple of seconds and stuffed my face.
No worries, man. It's all good. It's all good. So obviously you're well then while you are chomping away there. So So tonight we're going to chat about Muhammad's convenient revelations. So we'll talk over some of the revelations that Muhammad supposedly got just in time for things to work just the way he wanted, which I think when one views some of these, I hope you will agree, will seem rather convenient in retrospect. That is, from us that are non-believers. Clearly, I think most believers don't even look into this or worry about or concern themselves with whether something is coincidence or not. But before we do that, as always, we're going to share, we don't have many tonight, but we're going to share a few comments. Not all of them crazy necessarily, but let's share a few of them so you can see it all here. So this was actually something that I picked up off Twitter. And so this was an email that was posted with people who were trying to get Robinson's Twitter suspended. So resisting hate, Rowanna Carlton Taylor, keep trying to get Tommy Robinson suspended according to an email I've obtained from someone on their mailing list. And the email basically says, good evening, resisting hate. Let's have another go at getting Robinson suspended. And there's a link to his Twitter account. And for those who don't know, Robinson posted a Twitter that said something like, some people are being killed, or some words to that effect, and it says something like Islam allows killing, or whatever the case is. I'll see if I can find it. I don't know if you've got it, Stops. But and that was the tweet apparently that got his Twitter account suspended. So clearly there was and is, not just with Robinson but with other people, these sort of emails and groups that are actively trying to suspend or get people suspended on Twitter, at least, if not other places, for saying things they don't like. This whole subjective thing of hate. And no doubt we'll chat about it again at some point during the show. This really is the cancer of our day, I would suggest. Moving on.
Yeah,
so
here if you don't like something, get them suspended, get them censored. And if you don't like what they are saying, then you don't have to see what they are saying, and then this is gone. Yeah.
Yes, and they're bigots and racists and all this sort of stuff, because whatever they're saying has to be something that we cannot possibly tolerate, because it's so harmful to people's fragile sensibilities. Let's move on to our friend Zachariah. Somebody posted this to me. This looks like it was on, this is Twitter as well. So this is our friend Zachariah that I think, recently reverted Muslim, that I think a number of us think have certainly needs some psychological evaluation, and that's part of it. So he was replying, kafar, this haram in it, Ali Dawa. This is Ali Dawa, Ali at Ali Dawa on thing. Don't watch this dancing, drinking, smoking, ha ha ha. Allah doesn't forgive. And then he was replying to Laura in Southern here. Hey, white devil, come down to Speaker's Corner again. If you ask me for a handshake, I will kill you, ... legally. Not sure how you kill somebody legally. Would that not be considered sort of threatening? Or maybe the word legally somehow changes that.
No, number one, Allah forgives everything except shirk, so he's wrong. He should start reading the Quran. And he is right, you can kill somebody legally if you suspect that they will commit mischief.
What does that fall under?
Mischief, anything that causes, if you cause corruption or you cause mischief, then you can get killed.
Yeah, but surely that would have to go before a judge. Just a normal citizen wouldn't do that.
No. You can get killed for that. So if she comes down, wants to shake his hand, this is causing mischief, and he can kill her.
Okay, when you got a moment, maybe you can bring that up, because obviously we'll have viewers who will be going, Stops, you're talking nonsense. I'm sure you're not. And maybe you could while I go through the rest of them here, if you could bring up a reference for that, I'd be
It's the
interested.
Quran. It's the most famous chapter sorry, it's the most famous sentence in chapter 5 that is always being brought up. If you kill one man, it's like you kill all mankind. If you save one, it's like you save all mankind. What people forget is in between it says unless you have a reason to, which is mischief.
Now, how do they define mischief? Was that
Well, this is the point. So if a man is being approached by a woman and she wants to shake his hand, that is mischief.
right? Okay. Well, I guess some people can consider that, others wouldn't. So is it subjective?
Yeah, but this
or
is the
there-
beauty of the Quran. It can be anything you want.
Yeah. No. Although I'm sure they'll say no, go to the scholars. But then different
Hey,
scholars.
hi Abu.
Well,
What do you think?
evening. I didn't see you there, my good sir.
Good evening.
Oh, you didn't sound
yes,
so well.
somebody sounds so happy.
God has punished me. I'm having
That's because of your anti-Islam stance. You see, Abu.
yeah, but at least I haven't got crucified, and that's more than you can say for some people these days here.
That's true.
So,
But okay, what is your definition of mischief and corruption?
are you talking about this about when you can get crucified, or?
No,
Exactly. Well, when you can get killed legally.
So this comment here from Zechariah: "Hey, white devil, come to Speaker's Corner again. If you ask me for a handshake, I will kill you legally." And this is a reply to Lauren Southern, this white Canadian girl that was banned, that was stopped from coming in the country.
No, I'm not sure that's legal. But I mean, that depends on what school you're following. But if given, like, he looks like a Wahhabi, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's legal for him to kill her like that. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Let's move on a little bit here.
I think that ayah applies to if you have an Islamic ruler and you have people that I mean, I think this has happened in Saudi, for example, where you have organized crime or something like that, and you can crucify them and things like that. And ISIS also did it, but I'm not sure why they did it.
Okay. All right, let's move on to a few more. So here he's replying to Tan. So Tan said, Mohammed Hijab said, meet me after Speaker's Corner for a fight inside an MMA ring. Instead of there being some kind of violence in the park this Sunday, this would be the lesser of two evils. That's what Tan said. Zechariah says, you chicken, fight me instead. Ha ha ha. You look stupid on Twitter, racist. So that's Zechariah's response to Tan. So now he's wanting to get in on the fight as well. And if you look at him, I mean, I don't think he can fight his way out of a paper bag. So, he's probably not the guy that wants to start fighting. And then a response to Kalamia. Hey, you shaitan, I heard you talking about me on YouTube. I will kill you, man, in a debate next week. Okay, you snake Kemet. We seem to be using the word kill you here in debate or legally or whatever. He's got kill on the brain here. I do think he needs psychological evaluation.
Oh, sure.
Is a few cards short of a full deck, I would suggest. So there we go, good old Zechariah.
But didn't he go Muslim, Christian, Muslim? Just for the lols.
I don't know if it was for the lulz. Maybe he did believe it or whatever. But obviously, he was an ex-Muslim who became a Seventh-day Adventist, I believe. And he used to wear glasses and the suit and come down and preach against Islam. And then suddenly he had a change of heart, and now it's all back to Islam and a little bit of killing and swearing and shaitan and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think the brain is not operating as well as it could, perhaps. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. I don't know. So this one is something that you sent me, Stop. So maybe you can comment on this.
Well, this is something that Rafi sent. Thank you very much. That was very nice. I had not seen this before. So this is okay, I don't know how much explanation I need to give every time, because it's exactly what Abu said, because there's different regions with different schools, different rulings when it comes to the interpretation and the conversion into jurisprudence. So there's different, oh my God, rulings. And there are 4 big ones. And they are very much region dependent, because the way that it used to work is if you have a question, you go to the imam. The imam doesn't know, so he goes to the group of imams of that area, of the city, of the village, of whatever, of the valley, and then they will sit together and discuss a question that you have. Then if they don't know, they will go to the annual meeting, and then this is regional. And then they will come, these are the scholars, the clerics that come together, and they discuss on what it says in the Quran, what it says in different parts of the Quran, in the secondary texts, in the Sunnah, in the Hadiths and the biography. Then they look at what other scholars have said, and then they come to a ruling and they say, okay, this is what we think it means, and this is what we think we should do with it. So this is the jurisprudence process that you have in Islam, and this is the Maliki. So you have the Shafi, it doesn't matter. So this is the Maliki version with specific rulings and interpretations on what these people think based on what Mr. Malik said should be a specific translation of a specific verse or specific whatever in the Quran or the Hadith. That's the way it works. And what happened here is because in the last couple of days, we've been talking about free speech, about slavery, about rape and things like that. This has come up where people like Hamza Redbeard have said, no, Islam has nothing to do with Islam. This is all what people are doing. If anybody rapes somebody, like if we have the grooming gangs, this has absolutely nothing to do with Islam, because he says, well, I'm not even allowed to shake the hand of a woman. So how am I allowed to rape her? I mean, this is logics, okay? You need to let this sink in. So anyway, so I took a couple of examples from this Maliki jurisprudence, from the rulings, to show how wrong he actually is and how other people treat rape within Islam.
Okay, cool. So let's see what it says here. Here's the first one. So if you can comment on this, I'll make it a bit bigger so we can see it. There we go.
Okay, here it's actually the second part, if I remember correct. Yeah, I mean, this is, I've shown this a couple of times, that, for example, there are situations where under certain circumstances, a father can have legal sex with his own daughter. And here what happens is the situation where you are allowed to share a daughter, for example, but you're not, like with the adopted son, then the father can marry his own daughter-in-law, but not the slave. And so here we see that a son is not allowed to have sex with the sex slave of his father, but the other way around it works. And now the sentence here, she must be valued and he must pay the value. And then he owns her even if she did not conceive. So, and now you go into joint ownership. This is how sick it gets. It shows you how the people actually have discussed this and written this down on how to handle the very specific, detailed situation.
Yeah. There's a second part to this as well here. Oh, this is just another one.
And this is where, for example, this is very different. A Muslim is allowed to rape whoever he likes, but a Christian is not allowed to. This is the same thing with a Muslim man. The male is allowed to marry a Christian woman, but the Muslim woman is not allowed to marry a Christian man. So that there are differences within the treatment of males and females, who is allowed to do what to whom. And this is the extension of this, so that a Christian is not allowed to marry a Muslim woman, and therefore is not allowed to have sex with her, and therefore if he rapes her, it's even worse, and that he needs to be killed.
Any thoughts from you on it, Abu? You agree with that?
No, I haven't memorized every ruling. It takes. I have to look up in the books, so I can't really say anything.
Okay.
It's a lot of information if you want to memorize every.
No, sure, you wouldn't need to memorize it all, but from what you have read on that, because this is the Malik version.
The thing is like there's so many different, like there's a different, pretty much a different ruling on every issue. So it's very hard to know everything.
This goes to what I was saying last night. I was on a hangout last night with a couple of Muslim gentlemen. One of them was Shia Blade Runner's brother, and I invited him on. He might be busy or whatever the case is. I didn't send him a link necessarily, but it'd be good to have some of the Shias on so we can have that discussion with them. But it was going along the lines, because the conversation sort of tended towards the Quran, and when I said from my point of view, could God have made the book more clear that there would be zero interpretation necessary? This wasn't from Raza, which is Shia Blade Runner's brother. This wasn't from him, but from another Muslim going, no, it is clear. And here's what he said, and I want to put this out to the two of you because it relates to this to a degree, because there's so many interpretations of this, that, and the other. His claim was that no, everything for your salvation is clear in the Quran. The rest of the stuff could be ambiguous, but it's not important to your salvation.
Excuse me? Okay, I beg to differ.
Okay, in what way?
Everything that you do as a Muslim affects your salvation. If you, for example, don't know whom you can marry and have sex with at the end of the day, is going to ruin your salvation if you get it wrong. I mean, you need to understand that every single little thing in Islam is prescribed and counts. From how you wash your elbow and all the way to this typical example, what foot you enter the toilet with makes a difference. So if you get it wrong a couple of times, then this could affect your salvation. So you need to know all these things, and this is the funny thing, you need to know not only what is in the Quran, but the specific interpretation. That's why Muslims follow a specific scholar, so that they can know, okay, this scholar says so-and-so, I trust him, and therefore if he says I need to do it with my left foot, then this is towards my salvation if I do it right. If I do it wrong, there's a big, because remember, no Muslim really knows whether he's going to go to heaven. It's all up to the God who will decide at the end of the day. Not even Muhammad knows if he's going to go there.
Yes, and this all came about, I guess, because it was a claim that I'd not heard before, certainly in Speaker's Corner, and you guys probably have heard it before, but the claim that, in fact, we were all in heaven, not just Muslims, we were all in heaven, and we chose arrogantly, apparently, according to a verse in the Quran, which I don't remember the verse now, but I'll tell you about it, and I'm sure it'll jog your, or you might know it exactly already. But we arrogantly decided to take on this test of coming down to earth to follow the instructions, and neither the mountains nor the heavens would take on this challenge, but man was arrogant enough to do so, and so we came down from heaven in order to take a test to go back to heaven, essentially. And, and he read me the verse, and it said something about the trust, and I'm like, this doesn't say that we were in heaven, but apparently according to him this is clear.
I think what he's referring to is there's a hadith about the souls being in some place. I don't know where it is, but before you are born, you are asked like about God and so on, and then so they have already everybody have already testified, and then we something like that.
Well, he referred to an actual verse which talked about we offered trust, and neither the mountains nor the heavens would take this, and man in his arrogance took on this challenge, and so he sort of came to earth. I need to find it again. But when I read the verse, because I said to him, I've never heard this before from other Muslims, certainly not at Speaker's Corner anywhere, that we were all in heaven and then came back down here only to go back up again, presumably to a better version of heaven, because why would you come down if heaven's heaven? What's the point? And his view was that there was arrogance. But this all goes more towards the Quran itself. So when he read me the verse literally from the Quran, this wasn't the hadith. I'm like, that doesn't say on my reading. I'm reading it, exactly as you are claiming it for what it says. And it says, in my view, nothing like that. I don't know if you guys are familiar. I'll see if I can find it somewhere.
No, I've never heard of this. What is in the chat is 7172, which says, when your Lord took the children of Adam from their loins, their descendants, and made them bear witness over themselves, am I not your Lord? Yes, indeed, we bear witness, lest you should die on the day of resurrection. Indeed, we were aware of this. This is the old story that everybody needs to know, that Islam exists and what the benefits are. Otherwise, you can't be held responsible.
No, it definitely wasn't that. It was about how the mountains and the heavens refused to, or didn't take up this sort of, for want of a better word, challenge. And the word mountains and heavens was actually in the verse that he showed me, and man in his arrogance took this up. That the word arrogance and man was in there, but apparently the trust refers to us being in heaven and then coming down. So, I mean, this all goes to the point really of, how unclear the Quran is. But according to this particular individual, that's clear to anybody who reads it, clearly who's a Muslim, who's already been indoctrinated to what to think about that verse. Because when I read it, I was like, okay, tell me the verse, because I'm interested. I'm not saying it's not the case, because I've never heard that before. So I gave this verse. But I'll see if I can find it during the show anyway, and then we can see. Cool, let's finish these off. Okay, so that's the end of that one. I thought there were a couple more. Just give me 1 second. I just want to see here. Yes, here's a couple more here. Don't know how big I can make this without it going off the screen. Okay, so this is a comment with Ali Dawa and that agnostic guy that I posted on my channel. So the two of them are doing it when I did the live stream. And this fellow says, I usually do not comment on such clips on YouTube because the truth is very clear and falsehood is very clear to anyone. But this young Englishman is very polite and a good listener. He really wants to know the truth. When you look at such polite people like this Englishman, you feel that the world is still okay and that there are people that are real human beings, as opposed to, I don't know what else you could do, but there you go. The human race is proud of them. I do not mean only this British young man, but every man from every race and every country who seeks the truth and is ready to hear it and to discuss it is a pride for the entire human race. Well, hopefully we're doing that because we want the truth too. Also, this Muslim person who discussed with the British young man the arguments and proofs and logic, he wants to guide him to Islam because it will save his soul from hell in the hereafter. So clearly, if you are polite and a good listener and you're seeking the truth, which clearly the truth is Islam, so only if you're seeking that truth, then the world is still okay. So let me go the other way, come back to that one. And here another wonderful one just for Sarah. Is that ugly mutt Sarah showing his mug again? And obviously this is in response to that video.
Are you sharing this?
Am I sharing it? Yes. Are you not seeing it? Oh, sorry. How did I? My apologies. How did I not see that in there then? Sent to everybody. Sorry.
Here we go.
Thank you for telling me. Yeah. So there's the other one. Is that ugly mutt Sarah showing his mug again?
I like how they spell Sarah.
Yes, I know. That's supposed to be a condescending term because obviously most of them know it's Sarah, but Sarah is like a like an insult, or they're hoping it'll be an insult, and obviously he doesn't worry about that. So there we go.
That's childish.
Here's the one I just read now about this young Englishman. This one I thought was interesting. This was a Muslim condemning Hamid, Abdul Hamid. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe I'll make it a bit bigger. Abdul Hamid, I'm sorry, but if you can't control your emotions and behavior, please do not show up at Speaker's Corner. Many of the Muslim Dawah preachers who turn up end in fighting with heavy use of profanity. Please, you're embarrassing us Muslims and satisfy the stereotype that Muslims can't engage in a civilized dialogue. Ashamed.
Do you know the context?
So I can't remember which one. I picked this up off one of the videos. I think it might.
But are you aware of the context?
Of this comment, you mean?
Yes.
No. Well, I just picked it up off the video.
Oh, okay, because this is about this guy. During the Tommy Robinson speech at Speaker's Corner, somebody came with a stick and was hitting people with it. And then Abdul Hamid took this and then threw it at somebody. And this was picked up on camera.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then, of course, somebody said, aha, this is Abdul Hamid being extremely violent and throwing like rods at people and things like that. Then he made a video commenting and giving the background on what had happened, saying this was just self-defense, that he was throwing the stick at others.
Yes, clearly not self-defense, because I watched multiple videos from different angles, and he personally was not, quote unquote, attacked. What I saw,
just grabbed it and then threw
again,
it.
everybody might have a slightly different. I watched both the Muslim videos and the other videos from both sides. The first thing I saw was a Muslim guy but walking up to somebody and showing them a sign in their face, and that English supporter, if you like, then responded with throwing a punch or whatever, and then some punches were thrown. And then, of course, there was that guy with the mask that did use a stick to lash out at somebody. But it wasn't Hamid. It was somebody else that was taunting him. I condemn any violence. Doesn't matter. If you're being taunted, you need to still control yourself, especially at Speaker's Corner. So he personally was not attacked.
And I'm sorry, again, I just want to back this up, because no, this is not, the self-defense thing is not any kind of excuse, all right? No, it's not.
In this case, or always?
No, not always. I'm talking about in this case. Of course, there are extremes. You can construct extreme examples now where, of course, you must resort to violence when you want to act in self-defense. Absolutely. But I'm talking about here, if you're out, in Speaker's Corner, there's absolutely no way, because nobody's going to pull a gun and things like that where you need to defend yourself for your life.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously, what happens is when the two lines get close to each other, because if you watch some of the videos, it's the people who are more likely to get violent who are at the front of both sides. It's not just obviously one side or the other, but some supposed Robinson supporters and then a few of the Muslims. The peaceful ones are not normally at the front, unfortunately. So looking to have a look.
In my video as well, I said, if I know there's going to be this, I'm not going to go there, or I'm going to stay away. But this Hamid guy, he says, well, I just went there because I wanted to have an intellectual conversation with somebody. Excuse me. Sorry if I'm a little bit of a skeptic here. I do not believe that. There is no way that you're going to have an intellectual conversation during a speech like that, when you know exactly there's going to be a couple of hundred EDL supporters that were going to come along, just even if it's just for fun. You don't go there. If you really are a peaceful person, you don't go there. And if you do, you stay away from the front line, exactly what you said.
But also, you've got to be capable of an intellectual conversation.
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah. But I want to welcome Steve. Steve, good evening, my good sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Any thoughts from your side on that? Because obviously, you were there that day. I know.
I was there. Yeah. No, I mean, on the Muslim side, there was the whole lineup, wasn't there? And they were not there for a peaceful response, in my view. And yeah, as you've been saying, it's complete nonsense that it was self-defense. They were actively looking for a fight.
Yeah, and there's
Can you tell your microphone to cough?
Can I do what?
Tell your microphone to cough.
It's coming through a little bit crackly, Steve. So I don't know if it's a cable or what you're using there, but it sounds.
Don't say that. You're triggering me.
Sorry.
It might be a connection there, Steve. On your laptop or you're on a mobile phone?
I'm on a laptop. It's the same laptop as always. So
I don't know. I don't know if you can. Have you got a cable? Have you got like a headset on or something? Or are you just talking
no.
Just straight into the laptop?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got other programs running, but it just seems like there's a little bit of a crackle coming on your end here, coming through to us. Might not.
Close that down.
Yeah, that'll probably help. Hopefully nothing else is sharing your mic or anything like that. Yeah, so that's the case for those things. So let's move on then, because there's some other things we can go on to afterwards, but let's talk a little bit then about, I'm going to see if I can bring it up here and screen share it.
Yes, Raj, exactly. Yours was just background noise, but this is like in the microphone itself.
Yeah, it sounds like the cable. There's a little bit of an issue with the cable there, from what I can tell.
Yeah, but if it's straight in the laptop, then you don't have that. Then it's something inside groping attention or something. This is why it's...
Yeah, maybe I'll I'll switch off and back on, see if that sorts it.
Yes, if you
Okay.
restart, Steve, and then just join again, you should have the link still in. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so let's have a look at this was suggested by a viewer, so thanks to the viewer. So here's Wiki Islam. Here's Muhammad's, as they call it, just-in-time revelations or convenient revelations. And there's a few of them we'll go through here. I'll read some of them. We can have a bit of a discussion. Again, I'm not looking at the comments now because I'm reading this. So stops if you can stop me at any point or bring up some of the commenters, because I know we talked about having more interaction with commenters. So if you've got questions as we go, guys, type something in there and we will pick it up, especially if you, where's the comments? Let me just bring up the comments there for a moment. So one second, let me stop sharing for a moment. So if I go to comments now, please, if you want to get our attention so that you can ask us a question, please type that in. Type in the Jinn&Tonic show as I've just put it into the chat now. That'll give it to us in rare. Well, certainly give it to me, even though I'm not watching it. Stops will be able to see it as well. And that'll get our attention. So if you want to ask us something, then just use that. That'll help us see what it is, or see you if you're asking for something. Okay, let's bring it up here now.
Do we still need to explain these things that, according to the fairy tales, the Quran was being revealed bit by bit, sentence by sentence, word for word by a God reading his own tablet he wrote 15 zillion years ago to an angel who whizzed down to earth and then whispered into Muhammad's ear? Do we still need to explain that in this over 23 years? And I don't know.
I mean, it might be worth it for a few people who haven't heard it. Stop. So if you want to just summarize that a little bit.
Okay, what we're talking about is because Muhammad got sentence by sentence the entire Quran. The Quran is 6,500 sentences. So every sentence was individually given to Muhammad, who then repeated it to his buddies, and then they repeated it to some scribes, and then eventually, we don't know how long after that it got written down. And this is the Quran, or one of the versions that we have today. The way that it worked is that over a period of 23 years, this happened. And apparently, there are disagreements within the scholarship whether this was revealed with the sequence in mind that we have today, or whether it was revealed in a different way and then somebody garbled all the sentences and ordered them in the way that we know today. Nobody really knows. The point is, it was word by word, sentence for sentence. Some of these came at a time where it was pretty convenient. So, like, we'll see some examples now.
Yes. So hopefully you can see that. Muhammad seemed to have quite a penchant, thank you, for receiving revelations from Allah just in time to absolve him of misconduct. It seems quite astounding that an externally existing heavenly scripture would contain revelation that applies only to one individual who lived in the 7th century. Nevertheless, this is exactly what we find. Here are a few examples of the Prophet of Allah being rescued rather conveniently with one predicament or another by divine revelation. Multiple wives. Allah revealed to Muhammad that Muslim men are permitted to marry up to four women. In Quran 4, verse 3, if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry all other women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with them, then only one, or the captives and the slaves that your right hand possess. And that's obviously something that a lot of the...
Actually, it says... Mathna wa thulatha wa ruba'. So it means mathna is like 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit hard to explain grammatically, but that means 2. Wa means and. Thulatha, 3. Wa ruba', in this case 4. So it's wa. So therefore, the Shia, it says 2 plus 3 plus 4.
What does it actually say, though? Does it say plus, or what is the...
No, it says...
It's
and. What?
Oh, so
I've done this in a video. I showed this in a video. So
they interpret that as meaning you can have 2 plus 3, that's 5, 9. Is that right?
Yes.
There's even a fatwa about this.
Okay, right. It's either read as or and. Regardless, it's more than one. Let's put it that way.
The funny thing is, ask a Muslim and he will say both are right. It's a dualism.
Right. However, it seemed Muhammad had a special place in his heart for women and was not satisfied with a mere 4. So Allah has set an exception for him alone. And this is Quran 33:50. O Prophet Muhammad, verily we have made it lawful for you, your wives, to whom you have paid the mahar, if I pronounced that correctly, bridal money given by the husband to his wife at the time of marriage, and those captive slaves whom your right hand possesses, whom God has given to you, and the daughters of your maternal uncles, and the daughters of your paternal aunts, and the daughters of your kahil, I don't know how you pronounce that exactly. Sorry? How do you pronounce it?
It's khal.
Khal, okay.
Well,
Maternal uncles, and the daughters of your khalal, maternal aunts, who migrated from Mecca with you, and a believing woman, if she offers herself to the Prophet and the Prophet wishes to marry her, a privilege for you only, not for the rest of the believers.
Thank you. That's so nice of you.
Do we know when this happened? Was this after you already had 4 wives, presumably?
I don't even know when this happened.
Okay. And although Allah allowed men to marry up to 4 wives, Muhammad allowed only 1 wife for his son-in-law Ali, who was married to Muhammad's daughter Fatima. When Ali desired to take a second wife, Muhammad insisted he first divorced Fatima before taking a new wife. So that seems questionable. If the Quran is saying you can have more than one, and Muhammad is saying to this particular fellow, no, maybe there's a special reason. Let's see. I heard
That was his daughter.
okay, right. Only 1 wife for his son-in-law who was married to, his daughter Fatima. Okay, so, let's just read this. I heard Allah's apostle who was on the pulpit saying, Banu Hisham bin I won't try and pronounce these names, have requested me to allow them to marry their daughter to Ali bin Abu Talib, but I don't give permission. I will not give permission unless Ali bin Abi Talib divorces my daughter in order to marry their daughter, because Fatima is part of my body, and I hate what she hates to see, and what hurts her hurts me. So he carved special exceptions to marriage for himself by divine revelation, his son-in-law Ali from something permitted all other Muslim men per Allah's revelation in the Quran. So how do Muslims then, in your guys' experience, how do they reconcile this? Or is it fine for Muhammad to make special laws that seemingly are different from what the Quran says in Quran 4:3?
yeah, but that is only that is talking to believers that are not prophets themselves. So the prophet have special laws.
Okay, but there's 2 things here. One is that he has this convenient revelation to allow more than 4 wives only for him, unless you're Shia and reading it differently. But then the other part is he made this exception with Ali. So presumably then he can override the Quran in this, at least in this circumstance. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, he has a direct line to God, so he can.
This is what Rafa is just saying in the chat. They don't have a problem. They think Muhammad is allowed special privileges for being a prophet, or the last prophet, the prophet.
Okay, there's one thing for having special privileges in the sense that he can have them, but now it's also he is now commanding a special, well, one would say not a privilege, the opposite of a privilege for his son-in-law. In this special case, he's now demanding that there's a divorce first instead of allowing this fella Ali to marry extra wives. So,
Yeah, but that's for him as well.
you mean for Muhammad? You mean?
Yeah, because she's his daughter, and so because she is his daughter, she is something special along with him.
Okay, but that part though, he didn't get a revelation about that, did he? This part here, the part that we're talking about, he didn't get a revelation. He just made this bit up, right?
Correct.
Okay, so he can actually make things up that are, to my reading anyway, please feel free to correct me, to my reading, contradicts the Quran. So he can make something that supersedes the Quran in at least as one special occasion.
Yes.
But it's not that he makes things up according to their faith. It's just that as I said, since he has a direct connection or direct line to God, he can get this special laws
Okay.
very quickly.
Okay, let's assume
But-
it's got a
but-
special line, but he doesn't claim that this is a revelation. Though.
No, everything that he says pretty much is revelation.
He has special guidance. This is what Abu said. He has a direct line to God. So what a lot of Muslims believe is that anything that Muhammad does is directly remote controlled by the God.
There's even some hadith that the mushrikeen mocked the followers of the Prophet because they were like, I think they were writing down everything he did and memorizing everything he did, and said like, even how like ordinary daily things like how he ate and went to toilet, and they were mocking them, and the Prophet said something like, continue to write down what I do or something like that, because everything I do is from God or something like that.
Well, not quite everything, hey, because these couple of things they're not allowed to do. Supposedly marry more than 4.
No, but their difference is the same thing as different laws are given to different nations, different ummas. So, for example, Bani Israel, the Jews, they were not allowed to take ghanima. How do you say that? Spoils in war spoils. Booty.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to take booty, but this ummah is allowed to take booty. So the important thing, and this is something Al-Uthaymeen, he in his tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, when he talks about that God orders the devil, the Iblis, to make sujood for Adam. Making sujood for Adam is normally that is shirk, but
What is sujood?
sujood is like you prostrate, you're putting your face on the ground, and you know.
Yeah.
But since God ordered it in this case, it is he should have made sujood for Adam. So it's like a special case, and the important thing is to obey God, it's the obeying of God itself that is the interesting part, not what the specifics about what you obey.
Okay, but so just answer me this question then. What's the difference between, if some Muslims believe that everything that Muhammad did is like a direct line, he's got like a phone line that's always open to Allah, then what's different about, the special revelations that came down as opposed to other things he did?
Because the Qur'an is the literal word of God. So God spoke those words literally, and that's the difference between that and a normal hadith. And then you also have something like in between, which is hadith al-Qudsi, which is not part of the Quran, but it contains God's words.
Yeah, but that's just 40.
Yeah, they are few in number, but Muslims.
Yeah, but the point is that the hadiths in general are considered by some also like revelation. This is why there's a movement now by the Sunnis to include whatever is in the has revelation straight from God because it came from Muhammad.
Right, I see. So some are doing that, some are not. It's all over the show. Depends who you are. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
But I just want to say there's a few exceptions.
Of course.
I don't remember the exact hadith, but there is an hadith there where the Prophet gives some advice about some agricultural advice, like how you, I don't remember what it was, but how you plant the seed or whatever it was. And then it turns out to be wrong. And then he says to the Sahaba, I think he said, Antum a'lamu bi dunyakum, meaning like you are more knowledgeable about your worldly things. So that's an exception where you're showing your screen now, by the way. Maybe you don't want to do that.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Uh,
Don't know how that suddenly came up. There we go. Thank you.
yeah, so that was an exception, that were certain specific worldly things he may not get revelation about because it's so worldly and unnecessary.
Okay, so just a question here. Actually, that came up because I was just checking the Facebook there. Hassan is listening, stops, and he said, I'm listening. I disagree with stop. Not everything affects one's salvation. It depends on which view one takes. As I always say, Islam is not a single homogeneous entity. Oh, that's
okay. Yes, that's true. Okay, yeah, I agree, but I see it as that. I say that almost I'm saying everything that you do as a Muslim has some sort of effect on your salvation, or can have an effect depending on what God says at the end of the day. Because if you do something that is good, then every good deed is being seen and is being tallied up. Because remember, you have the angel on the left and the angel on the right, and they keep track, because God doesn't know everything. So they need to have books on you. And whatever you do, your elbows are being asked, your knees are being asked, everything is being asked at the day of, what is it called? Resurrection. And then everything that you have done is being taken for or against you. So I think that every stupid little thing should be considered as going into those books. But from a formal point of view, Hassan is right. It doesn't say so, that everything is being considered, but it wouldn't make sense otherwise.
I just want to add that I don't think stop is literal when he says that God doesn't know. The function of the angels writing down stuff is that you will have it on record, so it will be proof. So it's like you're on the day of resurrection, you're like in a court, and but I don't think you have any attorney.
no.
Anderson is going to come around and check the records.
and you're not allowed to remain silent because you don't have any constitutional right to remain silent.
Well, you wouldn't need to say a word because obviously God knows what's in your mind and your heart. So
yeah, but he forces your skin to talk on your behalf as well. So it's
he forces your skin to talk.
yeah, he says that your feet and your skin and whatever will talk. We get mouths and start to talk. So even if you want to remain silent, you can.
Okay, right. Hey,
I don't think you can refer to the American Constitution on the Day of Judgment.
no, I agree. You probably can't. Okay, let's move on to treating wives equally well. In the same verse noted above, Quran 4, Surah 4, verse 3, is an injunction to treat all wives equally. But if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with them, then only one. Muhammad initially gave each of his multiple wives equal attention and time with him, visiting each wife each night. As time progressed, however, he developed favorite wives who garnered more attention and affection than others. This created a great deal of tension among the ladies, and jealousy and rage ensued. But fear not, Muhammad received another revelation absolving him of the earlier admonition to treat all wives as equals and deal with them justly, and allowed him to select his favorite wives according to his desire alone. Quran 33, Surah 33, verse 51. You, O Muhammad, can postpone the turn of whom you will, your wives, and you may receive whom you will. And whatsoever you desire of those whom you have set aside, turn temporarily, it is no sin on you to receive her again. That is better, that they may be comforted and not grieved, and may all be pleased with what you give them. God knows what is in your hearts. God is ever knowing, most forbearing. Aisha, the favorite wife of Muhammad, was very discerning of his just-in-time revelations. After Muhammad received the verse above, Aisha commented, I feel that your Lord hastens in fulfilling your wishes and desires. So obviously, that's quite a famous one, isn't it? This Aisha comment. it doesn't. There's probably there's obviously a link to that. But I think most of us are quite familiar with that particular comment of hers, isn't it? Where you probably know the surah, the hadith off the top of your head, stops or Abu, where she talks about.
Yeah, but you pretty much read the punchline. Yeah.
Again, that one. Sorry, carry on, Abu.
But what is interesting is that the people at the time already knew there was something fishy going on. They put it down, and people still believe this.
What do you mean, this convenient revelation?
Yes.
Or at least, I mean, we don't really know what they really thought. I mean, like, there were some examples there was some guy that listened. There are hadith about people that deconverted because
exactly. Are these whistleblowers? Were some of these sentences actually smuggled in there?
Yeah, sometimes. But it's a bit like, I mean, there are similar stories about from the Soviet Union and like during, I think it also in Britain during World War One. You were not allowed to send back from the front certain messages. So soldiers at the front hide kind of in a. They kind of coded some messages back home, so that the person that people back home would understand, but the censoring bureau wouldn't understand.
Now, fortunately, none of those soldiers were claimed to be a prophet of God, so obviously they could do this. When you're claiming to be somebody as unique as Muhammad, and then you get these sort of revelations, as you've just mentioned, some people start to question the coincidence with which these suddenly happen.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. If that's the case, it's not the first time and the last time in human history. There are other examples. So it's a very interesting thought, and I think it's a plausible thought.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, this one though is obviously Muhammad getting these and people accepting these, which is a little bit different.
But I mean, it's interesting if you're an historian or a theologian, the possibility that there might have been people back then that smuggled in certain things.
Are you claiming that this might have been smuggled in? This wasn't actually original?
No, smuggled in the sense that they were thinking about people that would live in the future. So they like maybe Aisha wasn't really what she appeared to be, and maybe she wanted to. I don't know.
I don't know what you mean.
Or maybe someone, maybe not necessarily Aisha, but do you understand what I'm saying? In the same way as soldiers smuggled small messages through the sensor.
Who wrote the hadith? Okay. What happened is that you had a lot of people who were hired to write hadiths, and they constructed a hadith always has two pieces. Okay, you have the contents and you have the isnad. So what they did is they developed content which they thought was nice, and then developed the isnad along the chain along with it, so that it looked authentic. So anybody who went and looked at this later on would recognize the names from other hadiths, even though this person would never have said this. So how do you then distinguish a correct one from a wrong one? You can't. But they were people at the end of the day who wrote them down, and they were people at the end of the day who sometimes just invented them, came up with them. And the more creative ones, you also had a sense of humor. And that's why a lot of these things, and I think this is what Abu is referring to, a lot of these things are actually smuggled in there by people who either wanted to bring a message to other people later and say, look, this is what I wrote. You see, you can recognize, I can tell you what it's going to say because I wrote it and there it is. Or others will simply say, it's like an Easter egg today. I am hiding this in there so that people in the future will not know what I'm writing. Or you can have people who just simply wanted to bring something in there which they thought was useful, and they just made it up. So there's different possibilities, and you can speculate as much as you want because anything's possible.
Presumably, you're not talking about the Quranic verse, though. Surah 33.
Both. No, both. But at the moment, I'm talking only about the hadiths. Okay, the Quran we know nothing about, but there it's even more speculative.
Let's move on to the marriage of Zainab. We talked about this last week, didn't we? So I don't think there's a lot here. I'll just read a little bit of this. We could probably move on here. Zainab was initially married to Zaid ibn Hathra. Again, my pronunciation, apologies, is terrible. I'm just doing the best I can. Muhammad's adopted son. One day, Muhammad paid a visit to Zaid's house to consult with him about the matter. But he was not home. Not expecting Muhammad to be at the door, Zainab answered the door instead, dressed in a revealing garment, and Muhammad immediately developed a carnal desire for her. When Zaid learned of the Prophet's infatuation, he divorced Zainab so Muhammad could marry her. This then quite a scandal among the Arabs, who equated Muhammad's actions with incest, since he married his daughter-in-law. Soon after, Muhammad received another convenient revelation. I'll just read the part in caps, in dark there, which is Surah 33, verse 37. So when Zaid had accomplished his desire for her, so when Zaid had accomplished his desire for her, i.e. divorced her, he gave her to you in marriage. You meaning Muhammad, I'm guessing, so that in future there will be no difficulty to the believers in respect of the marriage, the wives of their adopted son. Okay, so again, the way this is written is not. I've got to read it like multiple times to try and understand it. It's obviously not clear, so obviously wasn't meant for all people of all times, or maybe my intellect is just not strong enough here. But so clearly he was accomplished his desire for her. We gave her to you in marriage, so this part in bold here is this Allah saying this? Who is actually saying this? The part that's in bold here. Do we know?
Sorry, what part with what?
This bit here. Who is saying this? Can you see it down screen?
I'm just trying to see what makes the most sense. We gave her to... No, this is God.
Okay, that's what I wanted to check. I thought it might be.
We gave her to you in marriage. In other words, Zaid had accomplished, in other words, got over his desire, in other words, divorced her, and then we gave her to you. So God explicitly condoned Muhammad marrying his own daughter-in-law.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That's the part there.
Which is stupid. I mean, I need to point this out once again, because I said this last time as well. The wives of their adopted sons. So the Quran here, and this shows exactly that there are humans who wrote this, because the wives of their adopted sons is bullshit, because adoption of sons was prohibited.
Okay. And that's in a separate Quranic verse, right?
Correct.
So would that be a contradiction then?
It's duality.
But to the rest of us, that would be a contradiction.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's an illogical. It's a logical break where you say, I'm going to abort everything about the custom of adopting children, at least when it comes to sons. And at the same time, I'm going to come up with some rules about adopted sons. Doesn't make sense from a logical point of view.
Okay. So we did that one, and there we go. So that's another convenient revelation that came down. Surah 33, verse 37.
But again, this shows that different people wrote different portions of the Quran, because the two people who wrote this didn't talk to each other, and because there was no version control or something, there was no project manager, everybody was allowed to write what they wanted, and everything just came together, and they were just hoping that nobody would notice.
I think we have noticed. All right, Muhammad and Mary the Copt. As stated above, Muhammad used to take turns among his wives, visiting a different one each night. One night during the time allotted For Hafsa, she had to take care of an urgent need with another family member, so was not home. Muhammad instead had intimate relations with Mary, a Coptic slave that had been given to him. Muhammad was not married to Mary the Copt. When Hafsa found out and questioned him, he promised on oath not to touch Mary again if she would keep this a secret, and promised that Umar and Abu Bakr should be his successors. Hafsa, however, did not keep quiet and told Aisha about this event. As a result, Muhammad had no dealings with any of his wives for a full month, living with Mary alone. Aisha and Hafsa conspired with the rest of the Prophet's wives against Muhammad and isolated him from physical relations. To justify his actions with Mary, Muhammad then conveniently received the revelation. Quran, Surah 66, verse 1. O Prophet, why do you ban for yourself that which God has made lawful to you? To add insult to injury, Allah then chastised Aisha and Hafsa for condemning Muhammad for having sex with Mary, the slave girl. And there's a long paragraph there. Quran, Surah 66, verses 3 to 5. I won't read it, but there's a long...
Well, you have the punchline.
Yes, this part here, isn't it?
No. If you go to the description of the women, so Muslims obedient to God, turning to God, worshiping God, fasting, previously married and virgin. So it says here that the women are not worth it. Okay, so you can have sex however you want, and you are the master, you are the one who is in charge, and the women should be grateful if you come and have fun with them, and they should say thank you afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing is a huge, long story. I mean, this is several pages, this whole story with Mary the Copt. And it's quite thick if you read the whole story, how it goes on, how many times this poor Hafsa woman comes home and says, listen, I want to have sex with you. And Muhammad said, yeah, I just want to carry on. Just give me 10 minutes, go away, give me 10 minutes. She comes back 10 minutes later, he's still at it. And she says, listen, you're going to be in serious shit. Tell her to go. This is my house, my bed. Get her out of there. It's my turn today. And he still doesn't do it. And this carries on and on and on.
And so then, presumably after all of this, then he gets this prophetic statement here. O Prophet, why do you ban for yourself that which God has made lawful to you?
Yeah, but the thing is that if you don't obey, okay, you will get wives better than you. So if you don't obey, you are going to be replaced with an obedient wife. And somewhere else in the Quran, it describes to you what is an obedient wife.
Yeah, but doesn't this sentence as well just open the floodgates for anything? Because he can claim anything's lawful for him.
Absolutely.
I mean, that statement, could have conveniently come right at the beginning of his interaction. I don't know exactly when it came in his life, but clearly after this event that we're talking about here with his two wives. But that then just opened the floodgates to basically say, anything that he says is lawful, because it would have come from God if he's got a direct line. Okay, the satanic verses.
That's highly controversial.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So should we skip that then? We can skip that if you think that,
There's a lot of things here which don't make sense. Okay, if you read the whole story, I mean, even look at the first story, the first sentence there. Paganism, polytheism, 360 idols surrounded the Kaaba. Really? 360? How the hell do you know this? Come on.
All right, we'll move on then and not go with that one then.
But what is interesting is that pagans, and now this is why the second sentence is interesting, that when Muhammad first began preaching monotheism and denouncing the other 359 gods, we need to remember all the time that this Allah, this God of the gods, was one of the gods. So everybody knew this God already from the past.
But he wasn't called Allah, was he? What was he called?
Allah is just God. Okay, so he was he was the super God, and then you had the female version, you had the male version, and then you had lots of all these other gods, and then he was the father. Then you had the daughters, Manat, Al-Uzza. I mean, there's 5 gods in the Quran, and people say no, there's only one God, and that's it. There's no other God, but there's 5 of them in the Quran. So what are you talking about? So the whole thing is very, very unclear what they are talking about. Number one, it wasn't in Mecca. but here it's always the Kaaba in Mecca. It wasn't. So none of this actually makes any sense.
Okay, so it's even worse than that then. So nobody's going to, well, apart from the Quranic verse here, nobody's going to necessarily agree on it.
Exactly. Here you have this Alat and Al-Utsa and Manat, exactly. The Gharanik, the cranes.
And we just add that like the Wahhabi branch they don't translate La ilaha illallah, there is no God but God. They translated there is no God worth worshipping but God.
Oh, exactly.
So they don't.
And where does that come in, Abu? Are you just talking in general?
No, but that several gods are mentioned in the Qur'an. It's not that they don't exist in people's imaginations. It's just that it's only the true God that is worth worshipping. So La ilaha illallah refers more to worshipping rather than existence.
Right, so they don't deny that there is other forms of a God, but the only one to worship is this one.
Well, I think they deny the existence of these specific gods as well, but the important part is not because, for example, Muslims don't deny the existence of Jesus. It's just that you should not worship Jesus besides Allah. You see what I'm saying? You shouldn't make a god of him.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the violation of the sacred months.
The other thing I'm just looking at, you need to know, you need to go and look at Hubal to understand the background of this whole Kaaba and Mecca thing, and you need to go and look at the Sabbateans, where people were very much aware of Petra and they knew what everything was. So I don't think that Mecca was Petra, no.
Because why?
Because the mosques, the Qibla did not point there, and because they were very much aware of where Petra was, so they did not want to substitute the Nabatean gods, Manat, Al-Utsa, because they all existed before that. So they wanted the Arabic version, the Arabic flavor, and this is why I don't think they were simply copying everything from the Nabateans.
No, but I'm not saying that Petra was the original Mecca, but to be fair, the theory says that they changed it later on, and they kind of consciously made people forget about the original Petra.
Oh, so you are saying that the original one was Petra, and then they changed it to Mecca?
Yes, consciously, and they deliberately tried to make people forget about Petra.
Okay, I don't think that
there was someone in the chat doesn't like my World War I similes, but think a little bit like how Joseph Stalin, where you have like pictures of him and Trotsky and other guys that he later executed, and then he eradicates these from the pictures, so it looks like they have never existed, or never was in. You see what I'm saying? Kind of similar with. I'm not saying that Petra was Mecca, but whatever it was, it's plausible that they changed it to Mecca and then they try to burn all memories, so to speak.
It's a possibility, yes.
Okay, let's move on to the violation of the sacred months. 4 months of the year were considered sacred to early Arabs. During these months, no warfare was allowed and bloodshed was forbidden. These months, which the Arabs held sacred, were these ones. I won't try and pronounce, but they're the 1st, 7th, the 11th, and 12th in the year. Muhammad adopted this custom of the Arabs and codified it in the Quran in Surah 2, verse 194, and Surah 5, verse 97. One of the earliest raids on a trade of caravans by warriors dispatched by Muhammad, we find yet another example of a convenient revelation regarding the sacred months. Muhammad's men spotted the caravan passing by on the last day of the sacred month, according to Ibn Ishaq. The raiders took counsel among themselves, for this was the last day of Rajab, and they said, if you leave them alone tonight, they will get into the sacred land and will be safe from you. And if you kill them, you will kill them in the sacred months. So they will be hesitant and feared to attack them. In the end, they decided to attack the caravan and capture its goods, thereby violating the prohibitions against warfare in the sacred month. When Muhammad learned of it, he at first admonished them for violating the sacred month, but then received a new revelation. And this is Quran, Surah 2, verse 217. They ask you concerning fighting the sacred months, i.e. the 1st, 7th, 11th, and 12th months of the Islamic calendar. Say, fighting therein is a great transgression, but a greater transgression with God is to prevent mankind from following the way of God, to disbelieve in him, to prevent access to, I guess that's the sacred month, is it?
Masjid al-Haram.
Yeah.
This is also one of the things that kind of support the idea of Petra, I think. It's also like there are several ayats. Like in Petra, there was a forbidden area and had these kind of similar rules. So I actually think that is one of the things that points towards Petra.
Okay.
You have to know the background a bit to make the connection, but you see what I'm saying? Because this is talking about it in a way that everybody takes it for granted, even the mushrikun. Read the Surah At-Tawbah, for example.
But this was just the inner circle. This was not a Kaaba or something. This was not a masjid.
Fighting therein, which surah is this?
No. I'm talking about Petra. You're talking about the inner circle, right?
Yeah, it's a slight sidetrack, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, we should leave it. Or maybe we should talk some other day. Yeah, about Petra.
But
because
we're
it's
gonna.
interesting.
I just decided with Rob that we're gonna go through Patricia Crona's Meccan trade, so we will have plenty of opportunity to.
Yes,
Great. That would be super. Yeah.
more history on that. Yeah.
Inshallah.
Okay, so the greater transgression with God is to prevent mankind from following the way of God, to disbelieve in it, to prevent acts, etc.
I'm sorry. Hey, wait. Hang on. I'm feeling a revelation coming. Back in a bit.
No, but he can't get a revelation. It's only the message of God. So.
I'm sorry, but this is.
By the way, TJ is here. Maybe we
hey, TJ. Good evening. How are you? Hopefully you're well. We'll just finish this off and then we can get into more of a conversation. Feel free to obviously go in as we stop through here. And al-fitra is worse than killing. And they will never cease fighting you until they turn you back from your religion. Islamic monotheism, if they can. And whosoever of you turns back from his religion and dies as a disbeliever, then his deeds will be lost in his life and in the hereafter, and they will be dwellers of the fire. They will abide therein forever. Okay, so obviously fighting in the month is a great transgression, but a greater transgression is preventing mankind from following in the way of God, to disbelieve in him. So this greater transgression, I understand, is how does that relate to them fighting these people in the sacred month, though? What were these people going to do that would prevent mankind from following in the way of God? This caravan that they were going to attack.
No, it's the other way around. They said we are not allowed to attack this caravan at this moment because it's still the holy month. But
yes.
If we don't attack them now, they will be in the sacred area. So we're not going to be able to attack this caravan. So there's all this money, all these women, everything in this caravan, and we're not allowed to attack. And this is why then God said, well, but if these are non-believers, then it's worse if you don't attack them, because then you are leaving somebody in the way, not believing in your God. So go ahead and attack them.
Okay. And obviously they would have got into the sacred area, which is presumably a greater transgression. So is it two things there? Is it one that they were disbelievers and that obviously attacking them would allow them potentially to follow in the way of God if they submitted, and the other is that they would have gone into a sacred area, or is it all in one?
It's all in one, and this is the definition now of self-defense. okay, they will never cease fighting you. They have not done anything. This is a bloody caravan. But they will never cease fighting you until they turn you back from your religion, if they can. So at the sheer suspicion that there is somebody who does not believe in this God, you're allowed to attack them no matter when. Yeah, actually not during the holy months, but go ahead anyway, because if you don't, then you're going to miss out something, and maybe they're going to attack you one day. So go ahead and do a preemptive strike on them. And this is the whole thing. So if you hear a Muslim talking about self-defense and innocence, all you need to do is laugh.
So would you be able to quote this verse then as a verse for them to consider about this whole, defending yourself then? Because presumably this isn't really a defense, because then it could mean anything you could then attack for anything, basically, because you could go, I think that they might at some point corrupt me or my friends, even though we may never speak, but there's a possibility that something might happen, and therefore I'm justified.
Yes, this is the way it works in Islam. I mean, this is the way the Quran works. If you fear something from your wives, you are allowed to, number one, number two, and number three. If you fear something from so-and-so, you are allowed to do number one, number two. No, that's the way that it works. So here it's the sheer suspicion of something that makes you then act in self-defense, because they might just go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is now apostasy as well. So whoever of you turns back from his religion and dies as a disbeliever, you're going to get punished. So this also talks about apostasy from this treason.
Yeah, dies as a disbeliever, then his deeds will be lost in life and hereafter. Although some Muslims obviously say, hey, people can apostate and they'll just burn in hell. We're not going to do anything here. I guess
but there's others which say more. They're more clear about the killing.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That's perhaps for another time.
But the interesting part is they will never cease, okay? So it's just the sheer suspicion is sufficient.
Yes, which is pretty horrific. You can subjectively have any suspicion you want. Okay, there's three more. We'll see how many we do here. Battle of the Trench. When preparing for the Battle of the Trench, Muhammad ordered his followers to dig a large trench around the perimeter of Medina to hold off the expected army of Meccans intent on killing Muhammad. Many of Muhammad's men put less than full effort into the task, and some even left without Muhammad's permission. At the same time, another Muslim needed temporary leave to attend an urgent matter. He asked Muhammad's permission, was granted permission, and returned to trench digging as soon as he could. Muhammad became upset and angry at those who left the task without asking his permission. In an act of theologically sanctioned dictatorship, Muhammad received another revelation. Qur'an, Surah 24, verse 62. Only those are believers who believe in God and His Messenger when they are with Him on a matter requiring collective action. They do not depart until they have asked for His leave. Those who ask for thy leave are those who believe in God and His Messenger. So when they ask for thy leave for some business of theirs, give leave to those of them whom thou wilt, and ask God for forgiveness. For God is oft forgiving, merciful. Who's going to ask God for forgiveness? Is it the people that ask for leave?
Mm-hmm.
Just for interest? Okay, so if you need to go for leave for an urgent matter, a family thing, then you need to come back again. Obviously, first you've got to ask Muhammad, and then he can, if he wants to, give you leave or not. Presumably, if he gives you leave, then you've got to ask God for forgiveness when you come back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Translation: those who are true believers in Allah ask Muhammad's permission to leave. Those who do not believe in Allah and are among the disbelievers do not ask permission. To further emphasize the point, Ibn Ishaq records the following words from Allah: do not treat the call of the apostle among you as if it were one of you calling upon another. God knows those of you who steal away to hide themselves. Let those who conspire to disobey His order beware lest trouble or a painful punishment befall. But clearly an admonishment, then you've got to ask Muhammad's permission. And then still ask, even if he gives you permission, you still got to ask forgiveness. Okay, right.
Well, it goes further, because there's even one where he says those who don't want to fight, they are the losers. And then a guy who's sitting next to him says, well, I'm blind. How am I supposed to fight? I can't. So am I automatically a loser? And therefore, then Muhammad says, well, then stop the recording, stop the revelation from Allah. I know better than Allah, so let's change it into something else. So Muhammad then changed the Quran.
Okay, and of course the Muslims will say that's your interpretation, stops.
Yeah.
Right. Muhammad and genetics. Let's skip that one, I think. Do you guys know this one? I'm going to skip that one, I think.
What? Muhammad and genetics.
This is funny. No, you need to keep this. This is hilarious.
Okay.
The punchline is the bold print.
And if a man's discharge preceded that of the woman, then the child resembles.
Did I read it? You don't sound very good, Abu. Let me just read the whole thing. Abdullah bin Salim heard the news of arrival of Allah's apostle in Medina while he was on a farm collecting its fruits. So he came to the Prophet and said, I will ask you about 3 things which nobody knows unless he be a prophet. Firstly, what is the first portent of the hour? What is the first meal of the people of paradise? And what makes a baby look like his father or mother? The Prophet said, just now Gabriel has informed me about that. As for the first portent of the hour, it will be a fire that will collect the people from the east to the west. As for the first meal of the people of paradise, it will be Qudite, whatever that is. Did I pronounce that correctly? I'm terrible with pronunciation. Qudite, i.e. extra lobe of fish liver. I mean, you could just make stuff up there. Who's going to challenge you on that? How do they know? You know, you could have said it's from the west to the east. Nobody's going to go, well, I can prove it's not. And if a man's discharge preceded that of a woman, then the child resembles the father. And if the woman's discharge preceded that of a man, then the child resembles the mother. And here yes, the other man has the right to be worshipped by Allah, that you are the apostle of Allah.
I wonder.
Makes unfalsifiable claims. And somebody
I'm not sure that's unfalsifiable. I think that's
well, how would they know
actually a testable hypothesis if you can test that.
But how would they? But Abu, how would they know which one preceded the other? If the child comes
okay. Practically, it's a bit hard
yes,
to, but it's
scientific evidence.
It's theoretically possible to.
Yes, if you had scientific evidence, which they didn't have at that stage. So if it happened, then all he says, well, of course, it shows that that this child preceded that of the woman. And
but you can run that experiment today. You can.
Yes, you could do that. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Enough.
Could you though? I don't know if you could. Could you? How would you know?
I mean, it's practically very hard, but you can if you monitor if you monitor somehow the act of creation, so to speak, and then you can probably make some kind of computer program that can calculate it, like various kind of features.
Yeah. I mean,
and you can also make both a genetical analysis and a kind of feature analysis.
Yeah, but the problem is you wouldn't know. I mean, in a perfect scientific world, you probably could, but I don't know even if we had scientific knowledge to be able to do that. Yeah,
practically, it's a bit hard. Yeah, I don't know if anyone would like to. It doesn't sound very romantic.
Maybe there's a way. I mean, I'm not a geneticist, so maybe there's a way.
No. But I mean, that's not. The hard part is not. The hard part is to know who came first, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So here's the commentary on it, which is kind of what we said anyway. Muhammad could not let the questions go unanswered, else he risked the ability to claim to be a prophet of God. So once again, he received a very convenient revelation. Just now, Gabriel has informed me that. Let's examine the answers Gabriel provided to Muhammad. First portent of the hour is an all-consuming fire from east to west. Was Muhammad Allah right or wrong? We have no way of knowing this because the hour is not yet upon us. So an unfalsifiable claim. The first meal in paradise is extra fish liver. Once again, is this answered by Muhammad right or wrong? Once again, we have no way of knowing because nobody has ever returned from paradise to inform us. The child looks like whatever parent achieves orgasm first during sexual intercourse. And this Muhammad was clearly wrong. Did Allah not know genetics well enough to provide Muhammad a correct response? Yet Abdullah bin Salim confirmed Muhammad as a prophet simply because he said something rather than nothing. Well, by the sounds of this, whoever the author of this particular part seems to think that there is a way to know this. So maybe there is. Okay, I'm quite happy to stand corrected. I'm not a geneticist. Maybe there is a way to know this.
And this is why I always say there's nothing verifiably correct in the Quran.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that he, he testifies that there's none to be worshipped but Allah, this is like a textbook example, isn't it, of uncritical thinking. He makes just unfalsifiable claims, and the guy goes, well, he must be the prophet of God for saying something that I cannot ever verify. It's incredible. Yeah, never ceases to amaze me. And the last one, Muhammad corrects Allah. You like this one, stop, because you talked about this. Narrated Al-Bara.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see this. Exactly, yes.
Here we go. Well, maybe it's a slightly different one. It may be one that you obviously already know that, but here it is anyway. It was revealed.
This is the one I was talking about.
Not equal are those believers who sit at home and those who strive the cause of Allah. Yes, this is the one. Mute yourself,
Somebody's
you
dying in
coughing
the
monster.
background.
Mute yourself, you coughing monster.
Sorry.
Hi, you bastard.
The Prophet said, call Zayd for me and let him bring the board, the inkpot and the scapular bone, or the scapular bone and the inkpot. And then he said, right, not equal are those believers who sit. And at the time, Umar bin Maktum, the blind man, was sitting behind the Prophet. He said, O Allah's apostle, what is your order for me as regards the above verse? As I am a blind man. So instead of the above verse, the following verse was revealed. Not equal are those believers who sit at home, except those who are disabled by injury or blind or lame, etc. And those who strive and fight in the cause of Allah. How do we know that? Okay, here's a question for you guys. How do we know that he suddenly changed this? He was sort of starting to write and then he went, no, and he wrote another one. Because somebody...
Several hadiths.
Oh, are there? Because a Muslim could simply claim, somebody's making this up. He never actually started saying this first, but here you guys are talking nonsense. He always only ever said this one.
No. It says that Al-Bara says it was revealed, not equal are those believers who sit at home. And then the guy says, well, hang on, how about poor me? And then, so instead of the above verse, the following was revealed, not equal are those believers who sit at home, except those who are disabled.
Yeah, so both of these are in authentic hadiths. Is that what you're saying?
No. There are several in different versions and different perspectives, but they all say that the ones, look at the bold print, instead of the above verse. We have the above verse, which says not equal are those who sit at home. Yes. And then it is being replaced by except those who are disabled by injury or are blind or lame, etc.
I just want, before we get too excited about this, it would be interesting to see what the Arabic says, because he only says the first part of the verse and then the rest is revealed. So it could be a kind of a translation mistake.
What do you mean a translation mistake?
Like since only the first part of what would become the whole verse was said in the beginning, the word so instead might be another word in Arabic.
No. Let me try this again. You have version 1, not equal are those who sit at home. And then you have the second version, not equal are those who sit at home except those who are disabled. So you have two different versions.
But don't you see
only
that
the second version makes it into the Quran.
But don't you see there can be a pedagogical reason for that only the first part of the verse was revealed, and then this Zayd guy. Oh, here's the whole hadith. Wait a minute, give it. لا يستوي القاعدون من المؤمنين والمجاهدون في سبيل الله قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بدأوا لي سهينا عمرو بن العمي مكتوب العم رسول الله فما تأمرني فإنني رجل منظر فنزل. This is what I'm saying. In Arabic it is فنزلت. That doesn't mean instead. It means so it was sent down. So I think I was right there. I think my or I was right, but I think that what I said, you shouldn't be too excited. I think the point is that only this so instead. Can you show me the text again? I don't think the word instead is there.
It doesn't matter if it's instead or not. That's not the point. I'm not bent on this word instead.
No. فنزلت مكانها مكتوم. To the book.
What do you? Okay, hang on a moment. I think Abu, you seem to be making a point that Stops is not arguing about.
Yes.
Okay.
You are making a point that the word "so instead" might not actually mean "so instead," and Stops says, "Well, I don't care. That's not the point." Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
No, but like, looks like if it had been a full verse that was changed, that would be one thing. But if you say just the first part of the sentence, and then you wait for a while, and then some dude asks a question, and then you reveal the whole sentence, that's different from changing the text, so to speak.
Okay,
You're
but
just adding something.
The claim is not that the text has been changed. The claim is that the second part was a convenient revelation after the blind man said, "Hey, what about me?" And he went, "Oh." And
Yeah, but then the Muslim can argue that that was God's plan, because you need to have a kind of, that's like direct tafsir, so to speak. It's like direct tafsir of what the verse mean.
But you don't have the version number 1 in the Quran.
Nobody only says the first part of it.
No.
I don't understand. Maybe I'm too...
You have different parts. You have not equal are those believers, number 1. Second part is who sit at home, number 2. Those who strive and fight in the cause of Allah. So you have 3 parts to the sentence.
Yeah.
You agree? And now in the second version, then it says not equal are those believers sit at home, first thing. Second, those who strive and fight in the cause of Allah. And the in between, the second part is different.
Ah, okay. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Not equal those who sit and... Okay. Maybe you're right about that. Okay, I understand what you say now. Maybe I became too excited.
or less excited. I don't know. Either way.
No. Okay, maybe. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. That's
It just sometimes like...
I understand.
I want to strongman them as much as possible.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
So you're not accused of strongmanning.
Yes, exactly. You want to make sure that it is, that it's not just jumping on half a thing there.
Yeah, but this is why we're here talking about it. This is why I actually enjoy this, that people can see we are not always totally in agreement about everything. No.
Yeah,
no, but I think I was wrong there.
As opposed to just jump on something without checking it. So yeah,
that's why I also enjoy if Hassan, for example, comes on and says, whoa, no. Are you sure about this? No, let's go and look at it. I think that's great.
So conclusion here, let's just do the conclusion and then we can open up for a bit more conversation here. Conclusion, after examining these few examples of which there are more, one must conclude that, somebody may conclude that Muhammad's revelations were not divinely inspired or sent down at all by Allah, but were used instead as a convenient way of exonerating himself from misdeeds, immoral actions, or other embarrassing moments. Muhammad alone was given special privileges according to nobody else, and is always in line with what his personal desires.
However, they could argue that that was a kind of immediate nasr, like immediate, say in English, immediate, like, because the Quran says and we don't forget things or make things getting forgetted, and we don't abrogate things without getting a better one instead. You know that verse. Stop spamming, you know it. We don't make... How do you say that in English, that verse?
Why do you always catch me with my mouth?
Okay, sorry. But hard to translate. But like you don't. Allah says something in the style of like, we don't make things from the Quran being forgotten, and we don't abrogate without getting something better instead. I don't know what this verse is.
That's exactly it. Without replacing it with something better.
Yeah, replacing it with something better. Exactly.
Cool. We've obviously
Surat
got
al-Baqarah, I think it is.
Steve and TJ there. So you've heard a few of those convenient revelations. Guys, if you want to chip in and share your thoughts, hopefully you've been listening to some of it at least. If you are there. Perhaps they've stepped away. Cool. So is there anything in the chat there?
Yeah. Okay. I've received 5 questions.
Go ahead.
Question number 1. Did you have any luck getting Shazia Hobbs for the show?
So the answer is potentially yes, next Friday. She responded to me. I've CC'd Stops in because I'm away next Friday. So Stops will be hosting. Hopefully, Abu, you're around as a co-host. Stops, if you could follow up. If you don't have that email, let me know again. But I have responded. She said she's busy this week and hopefully she would be available as a guest next Friday. So we'll hold thumbs on that.
Second question.
For those people who don't know, I will bring up her Twitter so that people can go and have a look at her while you carry on these Stops.
Muhammad only married multiple wives for political reasons, obviously, or social reasons. Yeah, you hear that a lot, but it's nonsense. I mean, you don't go. I mean, there's a couple of examples where he's obviously lusting, and when he sees a girl go by who's being brought to somebody else, and he says, "Whoa, this girl I like, bring her to me." And then he just keeps her, or goes to his son-in-law and says, "Oh, I like what I see." And this has nothing to do with social or political or anything.
I mean, this is like it's a weird kind of behavior, I think.
I love your way of understating things, Abu. Your talent for understatement is excellent.
No, but the reason I'm kind of trying to psychoanalyze it, like what kind of person would do that, and it's like this kind of childish narcissism. They're like, "Oh, I see something I like, yeah, I just take it."
Red Stripe. Who knows Red Stripe on this planet? Unbelievable. No, Wasabi doesn't. Okay. Muhammad was a nice man until he gained power, and Islamic sources tell us that power turned him into a nasty man.
Yeah, but I don't think all people with power do those things. But what happened to TJ and those guys? They didn't say anything.
I'm here.
What do you say to Muhammad was a nice man until he gained power? Islamic sources tell us the power turned him into a nasty man.
I think he had like maybe frontal lobe epilepsy or something like that.
Okay, so number 1, you believe he existed.
But the frontal lobe epilepsy doesn't really explain the whole thing. But the first thing with epilepsy is that epilepsy is just like your neurons firing as crazy in a specific area.
When he was receiving his revelations, I mean, they kind of describe it intensely, like he was shaking and everything. So
yeah, there are certain parts. Not 100% frontal lobe is the correct. Is maybe more plausible temporal lobe epilepsy, but there are other, but there are other parts of like his behavior that is like it's a weird kind of behavior. You can't like only explain it with epilepsy. It seems to be some other kind of underlying
Panic attack. Could be anything.
No, but this kind of that he just takes other people's wives and and
Okay.
and like he's kind of
But I mean, it's interesting to see, like, the dichotomy between when he was in Mecca and when he was in Medina. I think that, I mean, maybe his condition got worse as time went along. I mean, we can throw out like so much out there, but I mean, his life speaks for itself. I mean, there's really no arguing, as everything unfolded. But I mean, I don't think we'll ever know. But I mean, we can always guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you read the Quran, if we accept that the Quran is from Muhammad, I mean, this is not written by a person that is at peace with the world, so to speak. It's extremely. It's written by some really like vengeful narcissist, I think.
Definitely. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, I don't think he was stupid. I mean, I think it was Bill Warner who was saying that he's one of the smartest, people that ever lived. Just the way that he was able to expand his religion. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty crazy actually, if you think about it. That
If he existed.
Yeah, if he existed.
This is the point. You first need to accept that he existed. Then you need to accept that there was a Mecca. Then you need to accept that he actually was in this Mecca and then went to another place, which was Medina. Then you need to accept that there were all these tribes around there, which were then dissolved or disintegrated or something. And you need to accept all these things as, well, gospel truth, for the want of a better expression. And then you need to go and say, okay, he actually did have power. Did anyone think that he had power? I don't think he had power. This was just that he was a warlord, that he gathered the people and he became a pirate. This is the way that he is described in the Hadith, as somebody who picked up people along the way. And then they first went and attacked some caravans and some minor things until they attacked entire settlements, until they really went for the big stuff. And he really, I mean, the booty became larger and larger and larger. This attracted more and more of people who didn't want to have the hard life in the desert. This is the way that I explain it. If you explain anything to the people of the Arab peninsula of 1,300 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that point. I think, at the end of the day, like, when he started gaining power, he started, getting more things. And I think people are naturally attracted to that. They're like, something right. And maybe we should just, I guess join in on the fun, for a lack of a better phrase. But
money, women, anything you want. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, guys are guys ultimately, right? Like, we got drives and we got, urges and needs and stuff like that. So like, hey, like, why not? But I mean, if you just look at his life and look at the Quran and everything like that, I think it's pretty clear as to its man-made origins. So I don't think anybody really.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, next one.
Go on then. Yeah.
Maybe next time you need 5 minutes before the show to warm up.
No, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
We don't plan these things.
Have you seen back in the DDR days when you had these kind of warm ups with people in white and red clothes, like making silly movements? A lot of girls. We should have one like that.
Well, these were mock-ups.
Yeah, we've just seen that.
No, I think the way we're going is fine. It's maybe too temperamental at times, but I think it's spontaneous, and this is the honest truth. This is the way how we are, how we think, how we feel. This is not carefully orchestrated or anything like that. This is real life.
And here's the thing for me. If the claim is that you need that this book is not easy to read and you need scholarly advice, then say that. But if the Muslim claim is that this book is a clear message from Allah, which boggles my mind, then everybody should be able to read it, and you shouldn't require interpretation. And the message will be crystal clear in any language across the world. And I asked a Muslim the other night on a hangout, is it possible that Allah could have given this message in a crystal clear method that every human on the planet could understand without interpretation? And I did not get a straight answer. And if the answer is no, then you as a person who is a follower of Allah are saying, inferring, which you don't even know that you're doing possibly, that he's not omnipotent or maximally powerful, that he is incapable of sending this message crystal clear to every single human now and forevermore. And if you say he did do that, and we look at the Quran, anybody who's not a Muslim who's following it or has learnt it out of his head, it is not clear to the rest of us. And if we've then got to go and ask other people, then it's not a book that I can read by myself and understand it clearly. If I've got to read it 15 times to understand it clearly, then it's not a clear book. That's just my view on it. But again, I could be entirely wrong and it's crystal clear and I'm just missing the point, or I don't have enough intellect. That's entirely possible.
No, go to the first sentence of the Quran, or the Quran proper, I should add. The first paragraph is not really part of the Quran, is it? But go to the first one, ALM. Okay, please explain ALM. Well, you can't. Only God knows what ALM is. So what lesson am I going to learn from reading ALM? Nothing at all.
Well, that could be a code for something that'll happen in the future, and then all will be revealed. So perhaps that's a special code. And once that actually happens, then we will all be without excuse. At the moment, I think I've got adequate excuses, as in this is not a clear book.
What is the show tonight? Where is this conversation going? What we're doing is we're looking at revelations, the way that they were revealed, and which one were convenient and were aiding Muhammad in his very specific situation, in a specific situation of his life. And this conversation is going where we are looking at different ways of explaining this, while at the same time, I'm collecting all the questions. So if somebody wants to know something, we are now going to go through them. One thing, this is the last one, and I like this very much. Let's discuss incest versus homosexuality and homosexuality, and how Islam has objective truth.
Well, whoever asked that question, I guess, would need to come on and present to us what they claim is objective truth. What do they mean, discuss between incest and homosexuality?
Well, what is the Islamic view on this, and how does Islam treat this? How does it handle this?
But as you know, incest isn't forbidden, is it? Certainly with first cousin.
No. Incest is prohibited, except when it's necessary, as in the case of Adam and Eve and Noah and those, or when it's first level cousins, that is not considered as incest.
Yeah. And yet we know scientifically that it is, isn't it? And we know the genetic defects that occur and do occur. And there was a story about it. I'd have to look it up. There was a story about it in Saudi Arabia, where the US was training Saudi pilots, and they found out that their eyesight was incredibly poor at night. And then they did some tests and traced it back to inbreeding. I may be mistaken about whether it was Saudi Arabia. It was one of the Middle East countries where the US was training Middle Eastern pilots, let's put it that way. And they then traced it back. Could have been Pakistan, it could have been one of those countries. And they traced it back to the incest and the fact that there was defects. Their eyesight was not as good as it should have been. And when they found out why, because they were first cousin marriages. So
this is why I like this as a topic, that we can look at sexual relationships in Islam.
Have that as another topic, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
Because then we have incest, we have homosexuality, we have all the multiple wives, we have sex with slaves, even if they're married. We have all the different possibilities of having sex in Islam, which you don't have, for example, in Christianity.
Yeah, we can do a show on that. I mean, we've covered that, but we can put it all together in a single.
Exactly. This is why I like this. Yeah. Why do people believe this shit? That's it. Yeah. That's the $1 billion question. I think because, I think it has to do with the way that children grow up. I mean, come on. I never believed in a God, but for me, Father Christmas was much closer to home, and Father Christmas made a lot more sense. So Santa was there until obviously I started asking rational questions like, how can you have Santa going to all kids at the same time, especially since we are living in a warm country where not every house has a chimney. We had a chimney for, it was decoration, but not really functional. So, yeah. Can you talk about abrogation sometime, please, and give some examples if possible? Well, we've done abrogation, and it's very quick. It doesn't exist, or it does exist, depending on your personal preference. Some say it does, some say it doesn't. So nobody really knows what was abrogated by whom, when, and with what, and why. And I don't know. This is just speculation. Abu, what is your take on abrogation?
No, well, my take is not that interesting, but abrogation is useful for certain guys. It's a useful method that fuqaha use.
So, but what you say? All right, can you give an example of what is being abrogated by what and why?
I mean, I think we made a show.
Gymnastic. Rob,
Yes.
what are you doing? You're corrupting the children.
Yes, this is what we should do, like a warm-up.
Oh, is this you corrupting the children?
Yeah, I'm corrupting the children.
What is this supposed to be, and what sort of warm-up are we talking about here?
This is a joke about the warm-up that we need.
Right.
We should make a warm-up in every show, like, oh, come on now, let's start and. Okay.
Oh, by the way, I found that verse. Let me share the screen here. Is there anything else on that? Otherwise, we can just sort of open it up for a discussion. But
no, I want to know. No, he was just about to give an example with the corruption, with abrogation.
Abrogation. Do you remember we made this show like a long time ago?
Yes.
About what was it? There is no compulsion in religion, for example. That's a thing like. Many scholars says it's abrogated, and some says it's not abrogated, but it's kind of abrogated. So you can just go back to that show and watch it. It's a long time ago.
So you agree with me where it's not defined, it's not, there's nothing really there. It can be anything you want it to be.
I don't know exactly what you mean.
Well, for example, you can say there is no compulsion in religion was abrogated or not. You can say it was abrogated by X or it wasn't.
No, but they says it's abrogated by Ayatul Safe and by the verse of the sword. Yeah.
But there is no evidence for this, so there's nothing. It's just people thinking about this.
Well, it depends on what you mean by evidence, but this is what the scholars say. Like,
Jinn&Tonic show, can you guys provide a critique of Daniel Hakikachu's defense of apostate laws from the sneak peek of the recent secular jihadist podcast posted on Ali Rizwan's Twitter page? What? I'm out.
No idea what that is. Okay, I want to bring this thing up because I did say I'd find it, and I have found it. So before I do this, remember I said there was the Muslim who claimed that we were first in heaven, then we were arrogant enough to take on this challenge to come back down to earth.
I have actually that hadith. I have.
No, it's not a hadith. This is, you can tell me, but this is exactly the verse he quoted me to suggest that in the Quran it says that we were in heaven originally. We then were arrogant and foolish and took on this challenge that the mountains and the heavens would not take on. And we've come down to earth. And so here's the verse he quoted. So let me share this with you and tell me what you think. There's multiple translations of it. I'll just use Sahih International to begin with. And then doesn't help you reading it in Arabic. Indeed, we offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they declined to bear it and feared it. But man undertook to bear it. Indeed, he was unjust and ignorant. Or Yusuf Ali, I normally use Yusuf Ali, but it could be anyone, I guess. We did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and foolish.
What is
But look,
Supposed to say
he's
that-
taking it to like he's how do you say, you have, he's drawing out too much of this. Like he must have
Okay.
some hadith or something that back this up, that this verse means this.
Well, he gave me this, and when I challenged him on this doesn't say anything to do with what you're saying, he goes, no, this is clear. You just got to read the verse.
What
And
does
so
he
I'm
say it
reading it
means?
now. That humans, as in like our spirit, whatever you want to call it, was originally in heaven, and then we were foolish to undertake this challenge. And I asked him what the challenge was, and the challenge is to come down to earth and follow the instructions of Allah. And then if you were judged to have followed them correctly or enough, then you would go back up to heaven, presumably a better version of heaven than you were in.
No,
And
you
then-
can't. He's talking. He's talking.
It's inflation.
I'm
there
not.
somewhere.
I'm trying to represent him as accurate as possible. I'm not trying to cherry pick or straw man. This is what he said, and when I read this verse, I'm like, it doesn't say anything like this.
No,
And
he's talking. I
this
don't
trust,
know.
that trust.
But let
You tell
him.
me what trust means.
Exactly. That's what I asked him. I didn't get a response that I could respond back to you with. I did not get something that he. This was apparently the trust is like we were in heaven.
وعرضنا الأمانة. So the word amana can be used in many different. وعرضنا الأمانة. What should it mean here?
But I mean, Abu, we've got like how many there? We've got 7 translations. I mean, you could retranslate it into Abu version, but we've got 7 there. I mean, read any one of them.
Yeah, but
True,
the
we did
corpus is
offer-
actually the best.
Okay, so by the way, this is chapter 33, verse 72. If you want to look it up in a different one, this is.
No. Look, I'm not saying, but what the point is that
Go word for word.
He
That's the best.
no. Sure. He. It doesn't say what he claims it says. If he has another hadith or something, or some guy that making tafsir and kind of putting in all these things in, like you have another story that is linked to this verse, okay, then I will listen. But you can't say that you can only read this and then draw out from it what he says.
So let me just ask you and Stops and who's there, Steve? Have you ever heard of the claim that we were in heaven, that we then came down to earth to take on this challenge, or the trust, which is to follow his rules and then go back to heaven? Have you ever heard that before?
No, the story is, there is a similar story, which I'm going to read as hadith of the day.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it's not quite that. It's there are similarities, but it's not exactly like that.
Okay, Al-Jalalain. We offered the obligation to prayer and other matters, which when performed result in reward, and when neglected result in punishment, to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and created them in the power of comprehension and speech, but they refused to bear it, and we were apprehensive. But man, Adam, undertook it when it was offered to him. Truly, he is a wrongdoer to his own soul because of what he undertook, ignorant of the responsibility that comes with it. Wow. I mean, how much this reminds me of people going into a museum, looking at a dot on the wall and saying, this is a picture of a man who was bored and who was about to commit suicide. And I can see that the hole resembles something. And then the museum guard comes up and says, no, madam, this is where we took the picture down. It's just a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Obligatory duties. So Abbas says al-amana means al-faraid, the obligatory duties. Allah offered them to the heavens and the earth and the mountains. Okay, this says something completely different than what the Quran says. And this is even Kathir. Al-Asra, surely we offered the trust to the heavens. He doesn't do anything. In the end, Allah wants man to realize his real position in the world. This is Maududi. If in that position he regarded the life of the world as mere fun and sport, adopted a wrong attitude carelessly, he would only be working for his own doom. Here, the word ammanal, trust, implies khilafat, caliphate, which, according to the Quran, Iman has been granted in the earth. the inevitable result of the freedom given to man to choose between obedience and disobedience, and the powers and authority granted him over countless creations of using that freedom, is that he himself be held responsible for his voluntary acts and should deserve rewards for his righteous conduct and suffer punishment for his evil conduct. Since man has not attained these powers by his own efforts and has been granted these by Allah, and he's answerable before Allah for their right or wrong use, they have been described by the worst Khalifat and other places in the Quran by Amanatiyah. Oh my God, and this carries on and on and on and on and on and on. Lol, we offered the trust, obedience, and worship under the heaven. Okay, so the idea behind this that people make out to be is that heavens and earth were offered something and they declined, knowing how difficult it was, and humans took it in their arrogance and therefore are the losers because they don't know at the end of the day what to do with it. Oh my God. And the trust, the amanata, is used a lot. Those who believe, it's about belief.
Can you share your screen, or is it not something that other people can see or should see?
Yeah, I'm just going through. Okay, let me go back from here. Let me just do this, and then I need to open another Google window, otherwise this doesn't work. New window, there we go. Copy, paste, and go. Now I need to put this over here. Go back. Oh, shit. Ugh, that's no go forward. I made a boo-boo. There we go. All right, now I need to share this somehow. How do I share this? Application window, Quran, share. Do you see the Quran?
Yes, we do. It's what? Let me just make you main guy. There
Okay,
we go.
this is 33. I can't see if it's big or small or whatever now.
Okay, I can read it. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is the 3372 that I was just talking about. And if I add the corpus, we see, indeed, we offered the trust of the heavens and earth and mountains, but they refused to bury it, and blah, blah. So all this is fine. What we can do now is we can go to the roots and we can take a look at this word, this amanata, the trust, where I have no clue what it means. If we go here, we can see here all the different sentences where this word is being used, and we see that it always is belief or faith.
Alamana can also be used as like
it can be, but it's not. It's being used as belief or faith. I've only seen 2 exceptions so far. Secure.
How is it in Surah Tawbah?
Okay, here I only see belief.
The point is that this guy's I think we can be fairly confident that his interpretation of this verse is not correct.
Yes. Now, if we want to go and look at, we can go look at the tafsirs that I just read here in Al-Jalalain. It's indeed we offered the trust, the obligation to prayer and other matters which when performed result in reward. This is what I just read. Then you have Ibn Kathir, where you have what I just read. I'm not going to go through everything again. And then you had Al-Asra, where we offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to carry it. Then you have Maududi and Ibn Abbas.
Presumably that's metaphorical, right? The heavens and the earth who didn't actually refuse anything. They are not able to respond.
Although you can try talking to the earth and see.
And I'm not lying, I was on this hangout and another Muslim piped up who seemingly was maybe at a different level and said, no, the earth and the heavens are conscious and can actually respond. And then proceeded to want to explain that that's scientific, and at that point myself and actually the other Muslims said, let's not go there. And so we didn't go any further. I wasn't going to go down the route of being explained scientifically how the heavens and the mountains can actually do have consciousness and can actually respond.
Maybe he also speaks to his ashtray.
I'm not, people might think might be saying I'm making a fool here, or saying that, making this stuff up.
Can I ask you, what sect of Islam is he from? Or
I believe Sunni.
but if he's not, do you know what countries he's from?
No, I'll try and ask him again. It was on a private hangout, and I won't reveal his name, obviously, because I've offered him to come on here, and he may not want to. So so no, I don't know anything more than his name and his avatar, which I won't mention on the show.
Steve is positively capitalist. Answer, you're evil. Kalam does hate speech. Yeah, I know a lot of people claim this. It's quite funny.
Kalam does.
What's the metaphorical meaning here? Well, it's up to you, basically. I mean, talking to heavens and earth. Okay, what is heavens? What is earth? What is that? How can you talk, and how can you give, like a rock? Can you give a rock responsibility? I don't think I can.
But that's what I think. If he has some kind of a panpsychist view of, I mean, it's not that all people who believe in panpsychism have this view, but if you have some peculiar kind of panpsychist view, then maybe you can make that argument. Therefore, I was asking what country it's from. Maybe it's from some obscure kind of Sufi sect or something.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. I mean, they have interpretations for everything. Wild ones.
Okay. Should we...
Yes, and
That's a really funny one. Did you watch Vidu doing the Easter egg story?
Yes.
Yes.
That was excellent. Yeah. No, he's excellent. If you haven't seen him, go and search for Vidu Vids. V-I-D-S or Z. I can't remember. He does satire. He's excellent. And I didn't know that. Actually, I maybe not say that live. I didn't know that he was a family member of somebody that I know. I won't say.
Okay.
Yeah, so I won't say who on here.
Can somebody explain to me Ruspect? Who the fuck is Ruspect? What is he?
He's that black guy that you did a commentary on with.
Yeah, he's the drill sergeant or something, but I cannot understand what he is saying. He's do you get me? And do you know what I'm saying? But he doesn't say very much except you get what I'm saying. So I don't really understand what he is saying.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
This is some other version of kind of like Afro-English, let's call it. That's hard to follow. If you understand normal English, it's been sort of changed a little bit to some kind of Afro-English. So,
yeah, but what is he?
He's kind of an Afrocentrist sort of,
Yeah, but is he Rastafarian? Is he Muslim? Is he what the hell is his shtick?
I don't know. I don't particularly pay much attention. I think he's just a young, passionate guy.
Maybe Wudu.
Thought things through very
He's
much.
a Rasta Shia hybrid. That's an interesting one. How do you charge him?
Rasta Shia.
Rasta Shia. That sounds good, eh? Rasta Shia. I'm a Rasta Shia.
Why not?
Are you disrespecting the gang? Absolutely.
How does one
Why are you so upset with Respect? Oh, he is the guy who seriously came on the video with hijab and said, why the hell should I give the KKK freedom of speech?
Oh, yes.
I don't like them. I don't like what they are saying. So why should they be allowed to say what they want?
Yes.
That is why I'm upset with Respect.
Anybody else has to ask that question. Maybe you need to reflect a little bit. Why the KKK should
I don't like what you're saying. So why should I give you freedom of speech?
Exactly. That's what he said. No, really. This is what he asked.
Yeah. He did say, honestly, at that point, you know that the young man hasn't really thought things through for more than 5 seconds. If you have
you need to watch my videos.
But if you have a narrative, then obviously you're going to protect that narrative, even if rationality and free speech get in the way. You just got to run roughshod over that because you have a narrative. And so, if your narrative is we cannot have free speech, then you're going to have to say things like that.
But it's not only when it comes to this topic, like people are otherwise intelligent people also are like capable of intellectual gymnastic tricks that shouldn't be possible. There was a Scandinavian minister. He said something like his excuse for shutting down free speech or something was that Nazism is not an opinion or something like that. That is like it doesn't mean anything. Like no, Nazism is an ideology.
Yeah.
I think he was a social democrat. Because
Would you want to know the other one he said? I've got one more. Do you know why Tommy Robinson is a racist?
No.
Because when he came to the park, a lot of the people there were white.
Ah, okay. That's
in the UK. Can you believe that in the UK, a lot of people in the park were whites?
Yeah, was this said by a minister of like an MP? Because this is what I'm saying. Like if
but this is this Respect guy. This is
people
still ask me why I'm
upset
with him.
But the thing is, like, if guys like Respect, or what his name was, if he says nonsensical statements, that is one thing. But if you're an MP or
you should,
then you should at least like. But they don't care. They just
have you seen Ridiculous? The movie by Bill Maher.
No.
Is
this a new movie?
He goes and he does an interview with a senator or something, or congressman or something like. I think it was a congressman actually. And then he says, "Do you know these things?" And this guy answers, "Well, you don't get an IQ test before you become a congressman." In other words,
but the problem with this
as shit. You're as dumb as a doornail, and you can still be in Congress.
Look, I think that the average IQ of a congressman is probably higher than the average population because most of them have gone to law school. Not that I don't like law school. I share Lawrence Krauss' view of law school student. But in general, to get into jail and things like that, you have to make an IQ a test that is similar to IQ test. So they probably have, but the problem with them is the tragic thing about these guys is not that they're not intelligent. They are intelligent. Just when it comes to specific issues, they are like they have no scruples. They just put out these completely nonsensical statements to justify silly policies.
Yeah.
There's a rather blunt view in the chat there. Kalam shook Tommy's hand. Disrespect bent over and pulled his bum cheeks apart and let hijab shaft him. So somebody's obviously got a rather blunt view there. So just before we finish, I want to remind everybody we are doing a special show this coming Tuesday, the 3rd of April. If you can make it and you're interested, here is the link to the gentleman's channel. We've had him on once before. He's a philosopher. He's Ozymandias II. He will be on next week, Tuesday, for a very special show because he can't do Fridays. And he will be talking about what is atheism from his point of view. And he's going to present arguments in favor of atheism. He's got a particular view that any atheist that claims lack of belief or lack theism is not a strong position. And that when you are an atheist, part of being an atheist is an implicit, you do not believe in a God. And he will present actual reasons that he believes are very strong reasons for why you could, if you are asked as an atheist, why do you not believe in God? You can present reasons. His view is that certain atheists say, no, I lack a belief, i.e. I don't have to give any reasons. You have to give reasons, Mr. Theist, and I don't have to do anything. He thinks this is not the most robust way of doing it, and he'll actually present arguments. So if you want to come on and have that conversation and to ask questions, he was on last year. It's more of a philosophical thing, but he will be presenting some reasons. If you're in the chat and you want to challenge any of those reasons, then please do so. But what I wanted was a show where we had this, because I've heard him talk about this before on a number of other shows elsewhere, and I wanted him to actually present the reasons for why he is an atheist.
When exactly is this? 3rd April.
So that will be next Tuesday, the 3rd of April. So this coming Tuesday.
3rd April. What? Same time as usual?
8 p.m. Yeah, 8 p.m. I have actually made the link already. So that'll be Thursday, Tuesday, the 3rd
Did you
of
make it active?
I believe so. Let me just confirm that here quickly. Yes, it is active. I will give you the link actually now as well, so you've got that. I'll post that both in the main chat here as well as, so here is next Tuesdays. It's a special show. I normally do something on a Tuesday, but I've learned a great deal from this gentleman. He's got a lot of knowledge on this, and so feel free to join us next Tuesday. I just want to make sure I get that in before we finish.
Nice.
No, Rafa, you can't do that. Not at the end of the show. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's do Hadith.
Maybe Ozzy can make some Aussie gymnastics.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
No, sorry.
East German gymnastics. Okay. Khalas.
His pronunciation was so atrocious that nobody got it.
Yeah.
It's Aussie.
Aussie.
Aussie. It's a very strong.
Aussie.
Aussie.
Aussie. Okay. Okay, what the bleep. That wasn't what I wanted. So
there you go. The aspirin is working its magic.
Yeah.
Make that a bit
Narrate.
bigger. Make that a bit bigger, Adu, so people can see it if you can.
Maybe some other should read it because my voice is maybe unintelligible.
Okay, do you want it quick? That the Messenger of Allah says, when Allah created Adam, he wiped his back and he wiped his back, and every person that he created among his offspring until the day of resurrection fell out of his back. He placed a ray of light between the eyes of every person. He placed a ray of light between the eyes of every person. Then he showed them to Adam and said, "Oh Lord, who are these people?" He said, "They are your offspring." He saw one of them whose ray between his eyes amazed him. So he said, "Oh Lord, what is this?" He said, "This is a man from the latter nations of your offspring called Dawood." He said, "Lord, how long did you make his lifespan?" He said, 60 years. He said, "Oh Lord, add 40 years from my life to his." So at the end of Adam's life, the angel of death came to him and he said, "Do I not have 40 years remaining?" He said, "Did you not give them to your son Dawood?" And he said, "Adam denied." So his offspring denied, and Adam forgot, and his offspring forgot, and Adam sinned, so his offspring sinned.
Yeah.
What? You need half an hour to explain what I have just read, but it's only Hazan. It's only it's not Sahih. It's only Hazan, which is like it's okay. It's like a B minus.
But this is what were we talking about before?
So
Like
that one could have been where he was trying to, get some of that information. No doubt, I'll chat to him again in a private hangout. If one of you guys are around, I'll invite you in and present it to you as well and see if you can make more sense of it than I did. Right, I think that brings us to the end, unless there's anything else to say. I'm going to call it an evening, I think. So I want to thank Abu, Stops, as always, our guests, Steve and TJ. They've been very quiet there. And to all of you who've been viewing, again, a reminder, if you want to come in and listen to a very intelligent individual with philosophical and other knowledge, then join us this coming Tuesday, the 3rd of April at 8 p.m. UK time. And we'll be talking about atheism and what the arguments are in favor of atheism. Look forward to seeing you then. Otherwise, next Friday, Stops will be hosting as I will be away, literally traveling on the train at 10 o'clock at night. And so Stops will be hosting there, hopefully with a ex-Muslim named Shazia. Otherwise, another topic. And hopefully,
translate her name, Shazia.
Shazia, yeah. I've posted
Shazia.
it. I think. I'll post it again for you here, Stops, and for other people in our chats as well. Here is the link to that on her Twitter account in our side chat, and here's for anybody else who wants to go and follow her as well. And with that, I'd like to say thank you, good night, and we will see you on Tuesday. If not Tuesday, then this coming Friday. Thanks, everybody. Good night to
Tuesday. Tuesday. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.